What's happening, people? We are back. We are live. We are on Lee Judges TV, and we are struggling. I cannot tell you. We have got stuff back up and running. We have had some technical problems for a long time on this channel, and it looks like we still may have a couple, but we are going to sort them today. So do not worry, people. We are back. Great to be back and great to see you, Lee. Lee Judges, how are you, mate? And how was your holiday?
Yeah, all good. Listen, sorry we haven't been on for a while. Let's explain what's happened. We've had technical issues. Dave has left us. He's gone off to pastures new in Cyprus, and he had all the details of the account and everything like that. We couldn't get hold of him. Then when we did, we tried to go onto a different account. It means then that you have to be frozen out for a month on the old account. A bloody nightmare. But then all of a sudden, Dave goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, trying to get hold of me, So spoke to Dave anyway. We've got it all sorted now. We're back in control. Good luck to Dave in his pastures new, and everything like that. So, but we're back. We are back, and we're going to be back more and more often now. So now we've got it all up and running. The last time we done a show, don't you remember we done it? Nothing happened. We didn't even know what was going on, but we know it's there, and it's done now, So
Yeah, man.
All good news, So we're here, and that's it, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And big up the chat and big up. We're definitely live and it's definitely working. Big up Chaitanya, big up TBG in the chat. Lee, how was your holiday, bruv?
Yeah, very good. Had a really nice time. Dubai is a wonderful place, especially this time of year when you're hearing everybody's like cold. And it was really funny because on a Sunday, I think it was a Sunday, I was sitting laying by the pool. I know it was a Saturday, and my Saturday team, the game's been called off because of a waterlogged pitch and all that. And I was laying in the sun. I just roll over. So it was lovely, so we were about all the rain. But my God, I've felt it the last couple of days, particularly at Brentford, because I got in Friday night, went to the game the next day. It was cold, and it weren't the greatest of games for a bit of a while down, and I was freezing, but we got here in the end, what I mean?
Listen, I watched it at my parents', and I had my niece and nephew that were being babysat, and they stayed over as well. So we all watched it together. And I had to step outside just for literally 2 minutes. And I thought, whoa, I'm glad I'm not going there tonight. It was absolutely bitter, mate. But I was kind of gutted at the end of the game because I bet that was a hell of an atmosphere at the end. Talk to me, mate. You were there. What was your thoughts?
I'll tell you what. Listen, I'm going to say this now. It wasn't the greatest of games. I get that Arsenal were playing completely different now, like with this sort of controlled sort of way of playing and everything like that. But I have to say, once we got the goal, the atmosphere in there was unbelievable. It was. Listen, I'm going to be really honest. If you'd have said to me before the game, you're going to take a 1-0 win, who do you want to score? I would have said I would have taken Kai Havertz because of that. The reason of everything else needs to be up and running and all that. Surprised by the team, surprised by how sort of adventurous it was without being adventurous when we actually played the game. But it was all for me. This game, and I know this is saying, I've said this before. Going to the ground, I said, look, I'll take, especially after what happened with the 1-1 draw with Liverpool and Man City, I said, I don't care if it's the most boringest 1-0 win, as long as we win 1-0. I don't care on this game, After 80 minutes, I'm moaning and groaning, we're not doing this and doing that, But that's a goal changes a game, it changes everything. Because once we scored, it was a fantastic atmosphere. And you sort of forgot about what had gone on, you know what I mean? And it was just about getting the 3 points. I think everybody was delighted that we got the 3 points, and that was the main thing about the game. Sometimes you have to forget about the performance sometimes, and it's just about the result. But in the context of what had gone on all over the weekend and that, it was so important, Dan, that we got the win.
Vital, mate. Absolutely vital. And you're right in one thing. There was one of two players I would have wanted to score the winner at the end. One of them was Gabriel Jesus, because everyone's slandering him for the comments he made, which I thought was a little bit over the top, if I'm honest. Yeah, I understand it was rather stupid in some of the comments, and I'll ask you your thoughts on that in a minute. If it wasn't going to be Jesus, I wanted it to be Kai Havertz, because this guy's got to score sooner rather than later, and it's not been gifted a penalty. And you know what, Lee? Let's just concentrate on that, because that was an unbelievably good goal. I'm sorry, people was not talking about that goal enough. I thought the cross from Saka was inch perfect, and that is a header that you want to see somebody like that get on the end of. Now, there's two things for me, right? First of all, I don't think Saka had a particularly good game again, yet he comes up with another assist. And the other thing is, I've been crying out on this channel, on my channel, on AFTV for Kai Havertz to be used in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes as an Olivier Giroud type threat in the box. And that is why I wanted to see it happen. Now, I was really, really pleased, like you, with the team news because I saw Trossard in there, which I think suggests perhaps, and it might not be true, but perhaps Mikel Arteta has kind of decided against putting Kai Havertz in that position solely. I think using him now as that kind of nuisance and threat in the box at times, I think will be better. Now, if you think about it, he did actually come on again in that position, but he was a lot further forward when that goal happened and he was in the right place at the right time. I want to see him in that box causing a nuisance. So there was a lot I enjoyed about that goal, Lee.
Yeah, I've got to say, listen, I watched the game. I watched Tottenham yesterday. Like now, Kulusevski, every time he got the ball, I thought he looked dangerous for Tottenham. I have to say that. But he just had one defender on him. I'd be really interested when we play Aston Villa in a couple of weeks' time if they're just going to go one-on-one with Saka. Wherever I see other wide players, I watched Rashford yesterday, never got doubled up against. But when I watch Arsenal, every single week, every single game, Saka is getting doubled up against, and same as Martinelli. Martinelli had a poor game. I thought he looked a bit jaded, if I'll be honest. And Saka just didn't really get any change from it. But game is about, and I think at the top level, it is just those little small margins, Dan. You know what I mean? He gets the one bit of magic at the end of the day and gets the cross in, and it's an inch perfect cross. If you have a look at it, it's fantastic. And we get the goal. I think that there's been a lot more emphasis on stopping Saka play, but this is where other players have got to come into the game a little bit more now. Like I've got to say that if you've got two players marking him, two players marking Martinelli, there's got to be space somewhere else, and that means it's in the midfield, and we're not capitalising on that. If I'll be honest, that's where Havertz or whoever's in that position has got to pick up, because if you've got two players out there, if you make a run and a proper run, there's got to be space somewhere. But listen, Saka, I felt is finding it a little bit tough at this moment in time. I've got to say that with the double up, but that's something that he's going to have to get used to. I think that in football, probably all through his career, I suppose, you probably certainly when you start, they're not going to put two on you. It's only when you start becoming a good player that they start looking at things like that. And the thing is with football now, which is completely different even 10 years ago, is that they've got people that's job is to just watch games and say, right, how can we stop Saka? How can we do this and do that? The one good thing about Saka, and I think that I have to say this, where I watched a couple of wide players. I watched, I'm not criticising other wide players that go inside and all that. Saka can go inside or he can go outside, so he has got a good advantage of that, and at the moment he's been nullified, and this is where somewhere else has got to take a little bit of responsibility. And look, you have a look at it, I felt that the manager made the right moves. I thought Trossard, when he went out wide left, looked so much more dangerous than what he did in the bit. The problem we've got at this moment in time, Dan, and it's got to be resolved by Mikel. It's now what we're into December, and we have not got anybody that's nailed in that left-sided midfield role. I watched Trossard on Saturday. I thought he was awful. I've got to say that. And he only started playing really well when he went to the wide left position. We've seen Kai Havertz play it. We've seen other players play it. And no one has nailed that position at the moment. We're having to December, Dan. Someone's got to nail this position, because at the end of it, when you've got Martinelli being doubled up on the left-hand side as well, and he is, by the way, there is space in that area. And I do believe that Granit Xhaka made I would say made it because of that. You know what I mean? I think that in normal circumstances, the midfielder probably wouldn't get as much space as what he was getting, and he capitalised on it. And no one's done that, Dan, and that is the disappointment for me. No one whatsoever.
Well, Granit Xhaka's doing it at Bayern Leverkusen now as well, exactly what he was doing last season. Now, I'm not sitting there and saying that we are much better without Granit Xhaka, because there's 7 years there of him in midfield where really, let's be real, we had 18 months of football where he was top class. The rest of it, he was a liability at times. I've got nothing wrong with getting rid of Granit Xhaka, but if you're not going to replace him, Lee, with someone, you got to keep Granit Xhaka. There's no point of replacing someone and thinking,
Yeah.
selling someone and then thinking, we ain't really got a replacement for him yet, but one of those will do the job. That's not good enough for me. One of them, you're right, has got to nail it down. And I think it's on the player, but it's also on the recruitment team and the manager for letting a player go, having no person in there to replace him. Because for me, people will say, well, Declan Rice was his replacement. Well, what happens then when Partey's injured, Rice plays 6, and we've got nobody in the 8 whatsoever? That's poor.
That's been the problem.
So for me, it has been poor. So for me, we needed 2 players in midfield, and I stand by it. And we are showing why we needed another man in midfield. Whether it was Caicedo, whether it's Fofana, whether it's Kefren Turam, whether it's Douglas Luiz, I don't care what names you throw at me. It needs to be someone who can play either 6 and 8 or the Granit Xhaka role at number 8 in a more progressive role. It can't have just nobody there because all of our midfielders either hold or go forward. There's no one that can do both other than Declan Rice. So we need to do that in January, in my opinion, 100%. Let's start with that. I want to talk about a forward line. I want to talk about the goalkeeper, and I want to talk about this midfield because I think there's positives and negatives to this midfield. You've just mentioned the negative, which is the number 8 slot still don't quite look right. But my God, Declan Rice does. And I'll tell you this now, Lee. If we do win the league, which I still have my doubts about, if we do, the reason I'm going to say that he is the reason we have is because the away performances are Declan Rice's absolute bread and butter. The reason we're so solid and good in terms of leadership, steel, presence, resilience is because of Declan Rice. I thought he was phenomenal again, mate.
Well, I said in my fan cam, I said, I'll say it again, you know what I mean? That I don't think he drops from an 8 out of 10 every single game. Now, you look at it and you think, right, Brentford, okay, away from home. He fancies that just as much as he does Manchester City at home or Man United. He don't care what game it is, and I love that about him. Like I thought he was immense on Saturday. But if he ain't in that, if he's not in that team, we don't win that game. That's how important he was in that game. I urge everybody to go back and have a look because everybody was sort of focused on the Aaron Ramsdale mistake. Have a look at Declan Rice. Just forget about Aaron Ramsdale. Just look at Declan Rice, what he does. He doesn't sit there or stand there thinking, oh my God, he's made a mistake and that. He straight away sprints back to the line and knocks it off the line, you know. And I'm pretty sure Aaron Ramsdale's wrapping his Christmas present today, like because he needs to, because it was unbelievable. You know, you need a little bit of luck in football, but also you need to be game aware or whatever, like, you know, and I just thought that was fantastic. Didn't really realise that until I watched it later on. But it wasn't that just for me. It was the way he picked up the ball and he drove and everything like that. I think that if Thomas Partey was in the side, I don't think we'd be talking about the nailing of the number 8, that role now. I think he would have just took to it. The fact of the matter is, at the moment, we're playing him. And last season, Dan, when Thomas Partey was missing from a game, we were going, oh, missing Thomas Partey, missing Thomas. We are not missing Thomas Partey from the defensive midfielder because Declan Rice is doing that job. Where we're missing Partey is that we're not releasing Declan Rice. That's the other.
So let me just pull you up on that, right? Because I agree with you in everything you've just said. So in January or in the summer, whenever our next window or availability is to get a midfielder in, would you rather see a Partey replacement or a Declan Rice, not replacement, but cover for Declan Rice? So what I'm saying is, do you want a 6 or do you want an 8 that can probably drop deep, like a Douglas Luiz or a Kefren Turam or a Fofana? Or do you want to see another beast of a holding midfielder that can replace Partey, is my question.
I think like another piece of a midfield player, like, you know, someone that will do that holding, because like you've got Declan Rice, then I just think that can just go on another level. I do think that. I just think that he's got everything. I'm not saying
you see him drive with the ball, don't you, Lee? And he's holding back sometimes.
Yeah, I do. I think that maybe because he knows he's got to get back and all that. Like, I just think that the energy levels that he's got. If you look at someone like Thomas Partey, I think is a better holding midfield player than Declan Rice, if I'll be honest, because he's quick on the turn and all that, but he hasn't got that what's the word I'm looking for? He hasn't got that in his locker where he can get box to box, side to side, up across and all that, which Declan has, like, you know.
Yeah, and athleticism in that way, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not got the athleticism of him, like, you know, and I think that we're not missing a trick, but I just think that he can just there's more we can get more out of Declan Rice than a central holding midfield player. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because when you look at Thomas Partey, he's fantastic at it, But I just think that, he's got everything. I look at the way he drives past, but he goes past players like they're not there, Dan. Also, which he mops up fantastically well. There was 3 or 4 times that they could hit us on the counter attack, and he's just breezes across and gets the ball. Now, I don't know if Partey would be able to do that, but what Partey does is gives us that little bit more on the ball when we can control. I think if Thomas Partey's in that team, controlling from the back, and you've then got Declan Rice making those runs, I do then think that other teams, and this is my only personal opinion, is that if you've got Declan Rice driving into the box, driving with the ball, can these teams afford to have 2 defenders on our wide players and let somebody like him keep running through all the time?
Exactly
I
that.
think they get punished. So that's why I would go down to a holding midfield player, and you still got the likes of Havertz, Vieira that can play in that role if something else isn't happening or whatever. But hopefully now Havertz steps up, and my God, he needs to because he's had the confidence now to go on and do everything there. The one thing I will say about, I'm going to say this is a little bit of a negative for me. I thought Declan Rice was, and if anybody needed to be pushed to the front of the crowd and be thanked, it was Declan Rice. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I don't know why Arteta was doing that. I didn't sit well with me, you know what I mean? Because you're not
dragging Havertz up.
Yeah. Listen, since when we scored the goal to the minute the game finished till 5 minutes afterwards, all that was being sung was that song, right? And I'm going to say it now, Dan. It was fantastic. It was. I honestly believe. I don't think there was any fan in that stadium not singing it. Whether it was me, a kid next to me, or a 70-year-old man, everybody was singing it. It was fantastic, right? That's all that he needed. That's all the confidence that he needed and all that. For Mikel to go over and go, oh look, he's doing this and he's doing that. He hasn't been doing it, and that was I just think a little bit unnecessary. If I'll be honest,
do you think a bit forced?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit embarrassed about it. I think Kai Havertz really you know what I mean?
Yeah, he did look embarrassed. He looked like, get off a bit. I don't want to.
Yeah, if one of the players would have done it, I think Odegaard done it and whatever. But what I'd say annoyed me, I just didn't think it was. I just feel it was unnecessary. Is you've got all the players going like that, doing it as well. I don't think that it needed to be a manager saying, "Oh, look at my side." It was more like, "Look at me. I told you I was right about him." Well, no, you haven't told me.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
You know what I mean? He's come on and done the business, and well done for the manager. I've got to say, fantastic for doing that. It was a great move from the manager and everything like that. I just felt that it was, no need to say.
Mark's just said in the chat, Arteta was trying to prove a point by taking Havertz to the supporters.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, he's kind of agreeing with you, I think.
That's what I'm saying. The supporters are giving it anyway. They're really, really on his side, And for me, the songs are more relevant now because he has scored again. You know what I mean? He only scored once before, so now the song's more relevant. And I just think it was a little bit unnecessary, in that thing for him as well. He must now have all the confidence in the world to go on to the next game. But my point being that there's one player that needed a standing ovation from the manager was Declan Rice. But he doesn't need it, Dan. He doesn't. That's my point. You know what I mean?
Everyone's accepted him.
That's it. He's accepted it. He's this fantastic footballer, and the appreciation of it is there. I don't need Mikel to tell me what Havertz is doing and what he's not doing. I know what he ain't doing at this moment in time, and he's not performed to the level that I expected him to be. But this to hope that he moves on there and pushes well. I don't think that. Listen, it might be me being a bit picky and all that. I just felt that was a little bit unnecessary because we was in the fans have been backing him, and I think for 10 minutes when he come, look, he's won us the game. If it wasn't for Kai Havertz, we're I don't know where we'd be now. We'd be on the 2 points, 1 point behind Man City, and a missed opportunity. So listen, Kai Havertz, fantastic match winner, brilliant. But now has to go and nail that position. But going on to it there, no one talks about Declan Rice and the fee, Dan. They say 65 million or 60 million for Kai Havertz. No one mentions the fee for Declan Rice. Big up to the fella. I think he's been magnificent for Arsenal. Absolutely magnificent.
I think you're absolutely bang on. And do you know what's mad? Declan Rice had unbelievably more, had an unbelievable amount of pressure more in comparison to Kai Havertz. And I'll tell you why. He's an England international. He's come to Arsenal to make us better, go for a title. He's come for £105 million. There's none of this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games he gets like Kai Havertz. Give him time, give him time. He would be getting crucified. A little bit similar to Enzo and Caicedo, the stick that they're getting at Chelsea, because they're 115 million apiece. Now, when you look at what Declan Rice has done at Arsenal, it hasn't just come in and had a couple of good games. He's been the most consistent performer. He's been our best player this season, in my opinion. Some might say Saliba and Gabriel have been classed, yep, deservedly so. But for me, Rice has been different level. When you look at what he's done at Arsenal, a lot of it was similar to what he was doing at West Ham. I'm not going to be one of these people to go, look, he's coming to Arsenal and he's much better now than he ever was at West Ham. Rubbish. He was doing that at West Ham. It just wasn't as noticed, right? What I will say to you, though, is I think what he can bring to us, particularly away from home, is 3 points on the bag. We've gone to Palace and taken hard 3 points. We've gone to Brentford, taken hard 3 points. We've gone to Everton, taken hard 3 points. Places that, let's be real, Lee, even 18 months ago, I was thinking, I don't fancy going here. It's not going to be. It's going to be hard, this. Brentford is not an easy place. You see how they play. 5 behind the ball, make it difficult, double up on Saka and Martinelli. Don't give us a sniff. So I want to talk to you about the front line, because for me, Gabriel Jesus' comments were, I don't want to go over them too much again, but I want to get your thoughts on them. I thought I really wanted him to score. I know he's just come back along with Ødegaard, but Saka and Martinelli getting doubled up on. Ødegaard's now back and needs better games. He needs to become more visible than he was again. And Gabriel Jesus was trying to make a nuisance of himself, but we needed something else a little bit in our front line. My question to you, Lee, I want to get your thoughts on the comments of Jesus saying he's not really a goal scorer, but also I wanted to ask you, because we're picking up these points through defensive stability and by good performances from Gabriel, Saliba and Rice, but actually our front four, it's still not free-flowing. My question to you is, are we going to see the Arsenal of old at all last season, this season?
Well, that's a good question. I think we will do, because I do think that Jesus is critical to that. I don't think he's been fit. He looked a bit jaded on Saturday as well. Like, don't forget, that's his first game in 4 or 5 weeks. I know he played for Brazil, different kettle of fish and all that. Like, I think in the next couple of weeks, you'll see how very, very important he is. When he goes about goal scoring, taken totally out of context, because he was talking about his goal scoring record for Brazil. Wasn't talking about what it was for Arsenal or whatever. Listen, in the last couple of games that he's played, he scored 2 magnificent goals, you know. So, and then he got injured. And I don't care what anybody says. Look at the performance against Seville away from home. We do not win that game if it's not for Jesus. Great goal, great assist. And that's the best we played for a long while. It's the best that Martinelli played. It's the best that Saka had played, and it's the best that Jesus played as a front three, getting it all right on the day. I thought he was brilliant that day, created a lot of chances. Then we lose Jesus, and we're not quite the same. So I think that, you know, I'm sure he'll play against Lons, and then, like, you know, by Wolves he'll be up and firing and all that. Like, you know, listen, I don't care if he doesn't score goals as much as other people. I remember Wolves last season, we were struggling a little bit like that, and then it was his bit of magic that created it for somebody else. As long as he does that, it's not a problem. So. And do you know what? I don't care about Brazil. I don't care about Brazil and what happens there. Like, all I care about is he comes back fit. You know what I mean? Like, you know. And every time we go a Brazil game, you know, like, if you think back to it, Martinelli come back from international hamstring injury at Everton. Then it was Jesus coming back from international duty, injury, hamstring. I then see Alisson getting an hamstring injury for Liverpool this week. Like, you know. All that travelling and everything there, like, is no good to these players, like, you know. So, got to be wary of it, Dan. Got to be very, very wary of it. That's why I won't play Martinelli. I want to see Martinelli play on Wednesday. Just take, you know, ease him back in. But for me, Jesus, look, listen, I do think at times that game, I know it sounds silly, well, we got the goal from Kai Havertz, but that game, crying out for a Giroud or a Bentner or somebody like that. Funny enough, I was watching some highlights clips today. Like we was 0-0 with Wolves in the 93rd minute at the Emirates, and we're banging across, and Bentner heads one in, we win 1-0. So I do think that we need that sort of forward at times. You know what I mean? Like Havertz come on and done that. I don't think if Havertz comes on, we win that game because the block and the way that they were defending was tough to break down. Another day, Jesus, probably could have done a little bit with a header before Trossard put it in. I don't know, like maybe he's a little bit sharper, So listen, I'm not going to be too down on Jesus at this moment in time.
Well, we talk about a midfielder and lack of one. There's been links with Zubimendi, Douglas Luiz, Fofana, Thuram. We've agreed we need one more in there. What about up top then? Because there's lots and lots of reports about Arsenal calling their interest of Ivan Toney in January. Evan Ferguson is on the radar for the summer. Osimhen yesterday being told that he's one of Arteta's number one targets for the summer, and Arsenal and Chelsea are interested in him. And Vlahovic links this January are still ones that won't go away. Which of those names excite you the mostly?
Either or. I'm not really too bothered. Like, I mean, I tell you what, everyone you've mentioned there's better than Eddie, and that's the end of it now. Like, I mean, I thought he was atrocious when he came on, like on Saturday. Like, I mean, played for himself, worked hard at times, but that when he had the chance to pass it and then he shot, like the only thing that would forgive him for that is if he scores. So if we can upgrade on anybody on Eddie, I don't think we're going to get one of those big guns in January, Dan. I'm really honest. I don't think we're going to. But what we can do is improve on Eddie. I thought that was shocking performance. And he doesn't really do anything when he comes on as a sub, really. I have to say. He's more of a starting player, but he's got. Listen, I'm not slagging him off when I say that he's just greedy. He's just what strikers are. He's that sort of striker who's a greedy striker. Listen, we've had them in the past, but they do have that option and bang it in, and you'd have to go right. Well, and I'll tell you what, I've played with players like that, and when
when they bang them in, you can't blame them.
Yeah, I halfway through, as it's going in again, I'm going, you greedy, great goal, well played. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is.
Ian Wright was like that. He was greedy.
Yeah, but you've got to deliver. You've got to deliver, and he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? So, I listen. If you're going to ask me a question, and we've only got to play it, we've got one signing to make, whether it be midfield or up front. I will go midfield. And then go big in January. In the summer.
Well, I think that's what we're going to do. I don't think we're going to get a striker. I think Highbury Ultra's right. I think we'll potentially, if we get two, go for midfielder and defender. But I would be doing all I can to get Ivan Toney, because Ivan Toney, for me, has got the chance of coming now and taking you to the league title. He's not going to be 100 million. He's not going to be 100 million. He's not going to be. They can want 100 million. They ain't going to get it. He will go for around 75, rising to 80 to 85. That's probably what will happen, right? Brentford have been fair with that. I would. I'd say, well, how much here's Eddie, and how much do you want on top of that? And if they say, okay, give us another 60 million plus Eddie, off you go, Eddie. Let's bring in Ivan Toney. I would do that, Lee. I would. Now, have we got that money? I don't know. I've no idea how much money Arsenal got.
If a bigger deal comes up for a striker that he wants in the summer, then go and do that again, and
exactly, and then you use Jesus wide or something. And I just don't really care.
Out Tony or whoever, be ruthless, because he's been ruthless with the goalkeepers. So be ruthless in other areas as well.
Mate. No, absolutely, brother. I'm with you, and I'm with you. I thought there was a poor performance from Eddie, and he has been poor. Since everyone started screaming Eddie in my face when he got hat-trick, I ain't seen the lad. So very, very, very. Disappointing. Let's talk about the goalkeeping situation very quickly, Lee, because I know it's one that you're close to and one that you get frustrated with. I'm going to lay off with Ramsdale here, because in my fan cam, I got crucified by saying that I actually thought he played well, apart from a couple of mistakes he made. I don't think he did anything wrong. I know that he nearly cost us a goal. Do you know what he nearly did? He nearly did what David Raya did against City and Tottenham. That's what he did. No one cared then. He nearly threw it out badly. I've seen David Raya throw it out and kick it out badly as well. But everything else, he caught, he commanded his area, his kicking was fine, his distribution was good. I didn't think Aaron Ramsdale had a shocker like some people are making out. But I tell you what I do blame is the situation. You can blame the manager if you want, you can blame whoever, blame him, blame Raya, blame his dad, whoever. Everyone seems to be able to get a blame at the moment. But the situation has cost him those errors, in my opinion. Because Aaron Ramsdale, is a nervous goalkeeper at the moment. And I think that's why those things are happening. Now, people can point to last season and go, yeah, but he did it last season. He did it last season. He did in certain games, but not this early on. We've seen a couple of nervous moments in the games that he's played. And that is, for me, the situation that's causing those problems. And I just feel sorry for the lad. I know people will go, oh, it's football. Be ruthless. Grow up, man up. I do feel sorry for the lad because I don't feel like he's done much wrong. What I will say, statistically, we're better with David Raya, apparently. And David Raya has not done anything wrong. I get it. Better goalkeeper if you want to have that debate, fine by me. But it doesn't mean that I now want Aaron Ramsdale to get the hell out of the club. See you later, mate. It's ruthless. This is one of those games, and you were crap against Brentford, and this is why Raya's in goal. And I'm hearing a lot of nonsense, if I'm honest. I've heard a lot of nonsense since Nick's come up and made those comments. I still don't think Nick said anything wrong, personally. Whether or not you agree with the way he went on a podcast and did it, that's a different debate. But actually, what he said, there was nothing wrong with what he said.
No.
And Sky Sports and TalkSport made it out that he'd come on and had this rant, when actually he didn't. He spoke to Kevin Sophie. They asked him a question. He answered it. And he said, I hope Ramsdale and I hope Raya does well and Arsenal win the league. If that's him being horrible and mad and, oh my God, get him sacked and fined, then grow up, people. Yeah. That's the way I see the situation in goalie.
Yeah, listen, I think that you summed it up really well there. Like, let's just get this first and foremost. Like, whoever's in goal, and I'll back them to the hilt, like, you know. But Aaron Ramsdale, in my opinion, does not deserve what the treatment that he's been getting. To go to Brentford and be a nervous wreck like he was in the first half was totally unjust of what he's done for this football club, like, you know. And that was been brought in by the manager. The manager has created that opinion. Now, when people turn around and go, well, like, yeah, that's it now, Raya's the better goalkeeper. There's nothing between the two goalkeepers, in my opinion. There's not that much in it. But I'll tell you what is the big difference, and people can relate to this, is that you've got two goalkeepers, one the manager is rates and the other one he don't. Right, so who's going to be the more confident going into a game when you know that you're looked after by the manager and you're not? So at the end of the day, when Raya makes a mistake like he did against Seville, when he punches it and it nearly goes in, no one really cares. Because the manager backs him. Ramsdale does it. Oh, it's not a nightmare. What I will say about Aaron Ramsdale, and what I would got a lot of admiration for him, was that he went through hell in that first half. For all of that, does he deserve that? What sort of reward was that from the season before to go through the hell of what he had to do against Brentford, like, you know, with all that, like, you know? And it was a nervous wreck. I felt for him. I you know what I mean? I was shaking myself, like, you know what I mean? At the end of it, like, you know, I will give him that. The courage that he come out in that second half and didn't put a foot wrong was incredible. Incredible, like, mentality. And I think he deserves every little bit of credit that he deserves for that in its thing. Because at the end of the day, Dan, I don't care what anybody says. I'm fed up talking about it now. He does not deserve to have been put in this position after what he'd done last season. And then when you get a manager then going up to someone that's been crap for the whole season, relatively, and then pushing him in front of the fans and saying, look, this is my man here, he's done it and all that. I think it's unacceptable behaviour from the manager. I think he's been really poor the way that he's dealt with that. But that's what we've got now, like, you know. For me, he needs to cut the cords with Aaron now and say, right, Aaron, in January, you can go. We get someone as a number two and it concentrate on Raya. Because on Raya's point of view, Raya's sitting there in the stadium, Dan, watching that game. Every time Ramsdale done something good, out comes the song of Aaron Ramsdale. Every time he done something bad, out comes the song of Aaron Ramsdale. No one sings about Raya. So you've got Raya going, well, I'm not getting love from this Arsenal fans. You know what I mean? Like, he's done nothing wrong, Raya, in my opinion. It's not his fault.
I don't blame Raya, no.
Yeah, I'm not bit. I'll be really honest. If someone said to me, and you know, like, we've all been at a football club when a club comes into you and says to you, look, you know, come and play for my football club. I'm going to pay you this more amount of money. I ain't worried about the centre forward or the midfield player that's already at that club now. I'm going. You know what I mean? Like, and football's ruthless. You know what I mean? When I signed for non-league clubs, I wasn't worried about the player that I was replacing. I'm thinking about myself. I'm coming in and going to do the business and all that. Like, don't blame Raya whatsoever. Like, you know, I just don't think it's been handled well. I don't expect Ramsdale to start on Wednesday. I'll tell you what, if he did, I'd have a lot more admiration for Mikel Arteta than if he did from that point of view of the goalkeeping situations. And I'm talking about every other parts of Mikel's thing. I think at the end of the day, look at what the players done. They all got round him, and I don't think Mikel liked that. I don't think he likes that. That it's the sort of thing like, I just think that he's a great manager, Mikel. He's doing really, really well. I just think he's put unnecessary pressure on himself, unnecessary pressure on Raya, and unnecessary pressure on Ramsdale. And the fact of the matter is that when Raya has come into this team, he has not. People compare like the situation between Ramsdale and Leno. When Ramsdale come in, he blew it out of the water. There was no argument. Like, wow. He's the number one. Raya's not done that for whatever reason, maybe because of the pressure of not being the fans' favourite and whatever, blah, 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 blah. I don't care what anybody says. Aaron Ramsdale, whether you think he's a great goalkeeper or not, is a fan's favourite. I don't care. He is. I like him because of the shithousery that he done at Tottenham last year, you know what I mean? Like, and things like that, and the goalkeeping. I like him as a person. I like him as a goalkeeper, and I like players that have got all that little bit of passion. I'm not going to warm to Raya for those reasons. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just me talking from my point of view now. If there's no number one at this football club, Ramsdale plays on Wednesday night. But I guarantee you that he's not. Raya will come in there, and when you look at it, how fair is that for a goalkeeper and everything that he did last season to have got us into the Champions League, etc., 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 right? And all he's going to do is play 2 games a season in the Premier League and the FA Cup, right? Last season, like, I forgot his name now, the goalkeeper. Who was the goalkeeper last year?
Matt Turner.
Was playing all European games. He had more games. So when he comes into a Premier League game, so when was the last time he started was at West Ham? And you expect him to come in and play an absolute 10 out of 10 performance. Not going to happen, Dan. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're just talking about Jesus a minute ago. Oh, well, you've got to give him a couple of games before we're going to expect him to see the best. Well, it's the same for a goalkeeper. He ain't played for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. No, you're right, mate. You're right.
Poor decision. And listen, I'm going to say it now. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Arsenal are not there's something missing from the Arsenal team of last season. There's something not quite right. We're talking about it like yesterday, but Arsenal were top of the league. They're top of the Champions League group and all that, like. So it ain't all too, but they're still not firing. There's still something not quite right. I don't know what that is, then.
I agree with you entirely, mate. And I do think it's a change of style from a manager. I don't think there's anything wrong with the dressing room. I stand by that. I don't think there's anything wrong in particular with any individual players that aren't quite at the races. I think it's a change of style, which has affected the front four. And I think it's allowed us to get over the games in a 1-0, 2-1 way. Something, by the way, which Simeone and Ancelotti do every week that nobody wants. Well, that's what we're playing, people. If you don't want Carlo Ancelotti or Simeone, you can't want Mikel Arteta playing this style of football. That's all I'm saying. This wins you games. Hopefully it wins us a title, because that's what it's done for Simeone and Ancelotti.
Couldn't agree with you more. Like, listen, I watched the game yesterday. I know that they're not winning games and it's laughable and all that, but you can't say that Tottenham are not entertaining at this moment in time. It's a good watch. You know what I mean? Like, Arsenal were a fantastic
Brighton as well.
watch.
Brighton in 17 games have scored and conceded in every single 17 game. That is entertaining football, isn't it?
Listen, it was an entertaining watch last season. I loved watching Arsenal last season. It was exciting. It was a little bit kamikaze at times, I admit, like, and you weren't getting quite this and quite that, like, but at the end of it, this is how it is, like, and it's not as entertaining, but it's winning football. Now, when at the end of it, I'm buzzing from the weekend, like, 80 minutes of crap, Dan, right? Yeah. 10 minutes of great football. I'm buzzing because of it, because we've won. It's more important that we win, like, Lee, is this how George Graham's Arsenal felt? Listen,
At times, yeah.
At times it was, but there were times when Arsenal blew teams away, you know what I mean? Like, which people don't get a lot of credit for. George Graham doesn't, get a lot of credit for. Just go back to 1989. Arsenal won the league. They didn't win it on the most points, right? They didn't win it on goal difference. They won it on most goals scored. So when you're scoring lots of goals, you can't be that boring. You know what I mean? Like in '91, they blew a lot of teams away. You know, and listen, I thought it was fantastic, our football last season. I really, really enjoyed going to Arsenal. The games at the moment, I go back, I'm not moaning about this, but just saying, like, I wasn't really that entertained until 10 minutes from the end from the Chelsea game. You know, and the Newcastle game, you know what I mean, was as, you know, like I was watching a game of chess. You know what I mean? There haven't been that many entertaining games at the Arsenal at the moment, but we've been winning. And so I think that you've got to get a balance. I think the balance is not quite right last season where we were so entertaining, but we was conceding goals and losing 2-0 leads and 3-0, you know, things like that. But I think there's got to be a bit of a balance, like, and we haven't got that at this moment in time.
Listen, there's a couple of super chats. Chaitanya says the gang is back. We're now top and contending. We need to use this position, strengthen in January and go for it. No excuses to not go all out. And O'Malley, obviously, as you mentioned, just says, Lee, is this how George Graham's Arsenal felt? Listen, I will take 1-0, 2-1 the Arsenal if it wins us a trophy. And I've said that. And that's why I've never, ever scoffed at Diego Simeone or an Allegri or Ancelotti, because that's how they built it. I wouldn't have Conte or Mourinho now because they've got the Spurs lurgy, but that's how they play their football. And they've got bloody trophies. They've got a CV full of them by playing this style of football. So when people say to me, don't want them, don't play the Arsenal way, Mikel Arteta is not playing the Arsenal way that you think he is. And it is winning us games.
No,
proven.
He's not, so but I just want to pick up on what AJ said there, Dan, because it is a good point. I do think that maybe because of the Champions League that we're playing this reserved energy sort of side. So I think it's a great point. I think that to play the way we did last season, when you're chasing and hassling and all that, like you do that on a Saturday and you've got to do it again on a Wednesday, then again on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever. I think that's a good point. So I'd be very, very interested to see what happens once, you know, we wrap up the Champions League, because we can do that on Wednesday. Then we've got Wolves, Luton, and then Aston Villa. And then I think we've got the Champions League game, which hopefully will be a dead rubber by then. And let's see if we do change a little bit of a style going forward after these Champions League games. I think it's a very, very good point. That's why I'm not going to be too critical, because if you have a look at the way we're playing at the moment, we are conservative energy. We're not. We do it in little bits.
We're not gung ho. Yeah,
we're not gung ho. Yeah, like we do. We like that last 10 minutes of that game. We did really chase and hurry and press and everything like that. But we haven't done that at all this season. So maybe that is because of the Champions League. So I go on board with that.
Yeah, listen, it's a great point, and I think that you'll find out on Wednesday. Hopefully when we win, from then on what we do. Now, let me talk about that quick. Not Wednesday, but Wednesday as well. We've got Lens and PSV left in the Champions League. Then we've got a bit of a relax in the Champions League in Europe till February when the last 16 starts, which hopefully will be in, right? Then you've got Wolves and Luton, and then it gets tough, Lee. You've got Villa, Brighton, Liverpool leading up to Christmas. Then you've got after Christmas, West Ham, which we always seem to have, by the way, at Christmas time. And then Fulham, I think it is New Year's Eve. So we've got some tough games coming up. They're all tough in the Premier League. But am I right in saying in these next couple of weeks, with Lens, PSV, Luton, Wolves, we should be expecting a full house against those teams, shouldn't we?
Yes, of course you should. Like, I mean, I expect us to win comfortably against Lens. I expect us to win comfortably against Wolves, and I expect us to win comfortably against Luton. Then I'll be really honest. If we was to go to Villa and get a result, and win would be fantastic. But we need to get a result. A draw, I wouldn't be too down on that. Then you've got Brighton. You back that up with at home and you win that game. You go to Liverpool, beat them 3 or 4, and then you know what I mean. You go to Fulham away and get a result there, like, you know. But no, in all seriousness, you know, get results. You know, if we get listen, I got a lot of admiration for Liverpool at the weekend, because that's something I want to see Arsenal do. Go to Manchester City or Liverpool or one of those big teams and produce what they've done. They weren't great, but they got a result at the end of it, like, you know. So I want us to go to either Aston Villa or Liverpool, particularly Liverpool, and get something from the game. I'm fed up with going there and losing every time, like, you know. I expect us to go to Liverpool and do them. I'm going to say it now. I want us to do, and I think that we will do. I think we will do Liverpool. But Villa is a difficult one. I watched Villa against Tottenham. They should be 3 or 4-0 down. If they're not on their, if they're, which they won't be, and they will be on their game from minute one against us. Because if they're not, they're going to get done.
They're different at Villa Park, mate. They're different at home.
They're different at Villa Park. I admit that, but I thought that in the second half they was fantastic,
Yeah, they were.
But Villa have got two. They've got Manchester City before we play us. And they've got Manchester City on the Wednesday. So that'd be really interesting to see what happens in that game. We can put our feet up because we'd have hopefully beaten Luton. That's what we've got to do now. I know it sounds silly and all that, we have got to win our next 2 games. They are I know you expect them to win massive, massive games. Beat Wolves, beat Luton. Other teams are bashing each other around, like Manchester City and Spurs are bashing each other around. And Aston Villa, who you can't be written out at this moment, bashing against Manchester City as well. And then us against Villa, and then us against Liverpool. So there's some really, really big games for us, But it's no good putting in a piss poor performance against Wolves and a piss poor performance against Luton. We've got to be bang on those 2 games.
Facts, mate. Absolutely facts. Listen, I've got to ask you a prediction for Wednesday night. Tough game. Listen, you were out in Lons and you saw that the atmosphere was absolutely scary and we messed it up. I don't expect us to mess it up at home, Lee. I think this is going to be a comfortable victory. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal win. What are you going for, bruv?
I'm going to go for one more above that. I've gone for a 3-0, but I am a little bit cautious about how good they were on Lons. I have to say, because it was their first game in 20 years in the Champions League and they was really up for it. The crowd was unbelievable. And we shot ourselves in the foot with Raya, if you remember, playing that pass out when we was 1-0 up. And we'd sort of quietened down a very, very hostile crowd. I think at home it'd be a little bit more different. I just want to see the Arsenal crowd also getting a little bit more up for these games and all that. I do think there's a little bit more expectation. We're going to win this and that. We need to be a little bit more on it now. Hopefully we will do. So I'm going 3-0. But listen, I'll take a boring 1-0 as long as we get through, because I think it's important that we go to PSV with that being a dead rubber.
Absolutely.
Nothing. If we win on Wednesday night, well, not only do we qualify, we top the group as well. And that is, with 1 game to go, Dan, you'd have to say very, very good Champions League campaign, despite the defeat in Lons.
Facts, absolute facts. Listen, people, make sure you do us a favour. Make sure you like and subscribe if you are not already. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we are going to be very active on this channel. We're going to be doing something pretty much every single day. So make sure that you come and subscribe. Now that we're back up and running, if you want to come and support myself, you can come follow me at DanArsenal87. Make sure you're following Lee Judges and Lee Judges TV, also on socials. And if you want to come follow the podcast that I run, I'll be on tonight at 8 p.m. for Football's 12th Man, which will be with myself and all the Race for Europe boys talking about the weekend, which, to be fair, has been a very, very good one for Arsenal. So they're going to get it in the neck, which is brilliant stuff. So make sure you go follow us there as well. We'll see you next time. Over to you, Lee Judges, to see us out.
I am going to see us out, and listen, have a great night. And we'll be back, as we say, we're going to run up the schedule. I've got football now, but when we, at some stage over the next day, we're going to be putting the schedule out. Loads of things coming on, and we'll go from there. Listen, have a good night, everybody. Don't forget, watch Dan tonight at 8 o'clock. And also the hybrid squad, I think, are on today as well. So if you watch one live and not the other, make sure you watch Dan live and Kevin and Sophie straight afterwards. They won't mind me saying that. So have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Peace.